Welcome everybody to Crystal Kyle and Friends. Today we're going to be talking to Pisco. He just went full time, I think, right? Streaming.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody go subscribe to his channel. He's got a great channel. He's a lawyer. He does a lot of debates with right wingers.
He's really good at it too.
Yeah, highly recommend. Very knowledgeable guy. So really looking forward to that conversation. Not that there's anything to talk about. Everything's been very slow this past week.
Just
very
shoot
calm.
the breeze.
Yeah, we'll figure something out.
Is that expression?
Shoot the breeze? Shoot the shit. But there is something with breeze, but I don't remember what the breeze one is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Did you see when Trump said the other day, he's not the sharpest bulb? He's talking about Biden. He says, he's never the sharpest bulb.
That I relate to. I say things like that all the time.
But he did like 4 things in one day. He did things that were like what? How did you get that wrong?
Like, I think I said something in the show today. I was talking about Elon and Trump in recording Breaking Points, like mending fences. And I think I said something like mend the waters or calm the fences. There was some like... something that I was like, that's not.
Come on, calm the fences. That doesn't
Whatever.
even make sense. That's funny. That's funny. All right. I think your brain is better than Trump's, though, for the record. But before we get to Pisco, so we have, first of all, I mean, what do I say about this? This was a long time coming. This is something that, this was cooking for a while, but now we got some new numbers in Trump's approval and disapproval ratings. And man, oh man, did he fall off a cliff, dog. So there's an Associated Press NORC poll where his disapproval is 60% and his approval is just 39%. Then there was also a Quinnipiac poll. Again, this is in a very short time frame here, so this trend is real. Quinnipiac, 54% disapprove, 38% approve. So what we're talking about now is like post January 6th, after he literally tried to steal the election and his rider fans did an insurrection, he was between like 30 and 35%. We are getting dangerously close to post-January 6th territory. And I've been saying on my show all the time that like his floor is anywhere from like 26% to 33%.
Yeah.
Somewhere in that range is like when he's dead bottom, like nuked some country and destroyed everything, etc.
Yeah, like went to war with Iran as one example, potentially.
That's not going to happen, bro. I don't know what you're talking about.
He's the peace president.
That's what he'll be. Like, that'll be the bottom. But we're getting there. We're getting there already. And the funny thing is, I think in his mind, he thinks, like, the more shit he's doing, that, it's actually going to help me. Like, I have no doubt he thinks war with Iran will help him. Because remember when he said about Obama? Obama's numbers are getting low. He'll probably go to war with Iran to bring him up.
Yeah.
He said that's how he thinks.
Maybe.
Right? He thinks there's going to be a rally around the flag effect. He thinks if I send the military into Los Angeles, that's strength. I look strong. Meanwhile, the numbers are collapsing.
Yeah. Well, I think that piece is really important because the more that his numbers ebb, the more political failures he faces. I mean, his top supporter called him a pedophile last week, right?
And it's true. Yeah.
And and said that he should be impeached and replaced with J.D. Vance. And also said, oh, by the way, I bought the election for you. Like, you didn't even win. I won that shit. So things not going that well for Trump. And someone who is an authoritarian fascist, like, when that is the case, what do? They reach for more power to crush any sort of dissent. They, go full, like, authoritarian strongman, and that's what we see. Are threatening to arrest Gavin Newsom, federalizing the National Guard, deploying Marines into L.A., threatening this more broadly throughout the country, actually charging a congresswoman with charges that could result in 17 years in prison. And then you've got the military parade this weekend. Like, the fact that the poll numbers are dropping and those aggressively authoritarian tactics are being wielded at the same time is not a coincidence whatsoever. And the other thing, if you look at those polls, if you go issue by issue, even on immigration, which continues to be, a stronger issue for him, he's underwater on literally everything. In the Quinnipiac poll, he is underwater on immigration, 43% approve, 54% disapprove. On deportations, you've got only 40% approving and 56% disapproving. On the economy, 40% approve, 56% disapprove. On trade, 57% disapprove. On every single issue.
That's literally every issue. He's underwater on every issue.
They do Israel and Russia universities as well, and similar, like around 55% are like, no, I don't like what you're doing here. So things are falling off for him. And if he thinks that this militarized crackdown in LA is going to help him, I just don't buy it. Like, I just don't think that people believe sending in the Marines for some pretty low level like protests that were easily contained and are already quiet now, like are already calm now. I don't think people accept that, and it fits in with some of their deeper concerns about him, which is that he is an authoritarian and will use these aggressive democracy-ending style tactics.
So here's something that I found fascinating. I'm curious what you make of it, but only 6 Republicans, like the politicians, said, I'm going to Trump's military parade.
Yeah.
Only 6.
Like, I don't know who is going, because
I mean, shit. Tommy Tuberville, like the biggest fucking assholes.
But I'm talking about like more broadly. Like,
oh, you're talking about
who is
regular
this for?
people, like who's going?
Yeah, I was talking to Sagar about this. He was saying like probably military people from the region. There's a large number of, you know, military folks in the general region, but it doesn't even feel like a big, you know, like when Trump gets inaugurated, all the MAGA people like get on their buses and get in their cars and they come.
The protests are going to be bigger than this.
Capitol.
They have a big protest scheduled for that day.
Yeah, and nationwide protests.
Nationwide in all these major
no Kings
cities.
protests, which I think is smart branding too.
Right, and Trump said, we're not going to allow any protests. You'll be met with very heavy force if you protest. So it could pop off because, yeah, if only 6 Republican politicians are saying, I'm going to go, like I'm sure Trump expects all of those assholes to go, and basically none of them are going. So that, I think, is wild because, and we talked about this the other day, that I don't know, a military parade is just one of those things where, as an American, you just feel like, ugh.
Seeing the visuals of tanks arriving on trains into the nation's capital, it feels un-American.
Absolutely.
You're like, what country am I living in? This is not right. This is not okay. And so I do think there is, you know, optics and imagery are important. When you see that visual, there is something visceral and, you know, in the reaction to that. I absolutely think so, especially in the context of all the other shit that Trump is doing too.
Yeah, and I also wanted to point out that the Marines that he's sending into Los Angeles and that he's planning on eventually sending into other Democratic cities, which should be coming in a short time, as of right now, they were sent with no food, no water, they're not getting paid, and they're not getting health care. It was so last minute, and it was so like, do it, that none of the groundwork is actually laid. Like the logistics. I mean, there's pictures of them sleeping, you know, on the fucking ground in some random places because they got nowhere to fucking go.
I mean, that was the National Guardsman. Yeah. And I mean, you have almost 5,000 active duty military in LA for some protests that at their biggest were like 6 blocks of this. I mean,
yeah,
it's
and
just
they went 1 or 2 days
insane.
before they sent him in. That's, I mean, that was obviously, he was looking for the thinnest veneer he could have to say,
absolutely,
total martial law.
And has been from the beginning of his administration.
Of course, yeah.
And so
that's
this
right.
was, you know, incredibly pretextual. Back to the point of his slipping political standing, this truth that he put out today, also this Thursday, that he put out today was also indicative to me that he realizes he's on pretty shaky ground. He said, our great farmers and people in the hotel and leisure business have been stating that our very aggressive policy on immigration is taking very good, long-time workers away from them, with those jobs being almost impossible to replace. In many cases, the criminals allowed into our country by the very stupid Biden open borders policy are applying for those jobs. This is not good. We must protect our farmers, but get the criminals out of the USA. Changes are coming. So acknowledging that his own like aggressive policy where Stephen Miller went and yelled at ICE and said, stop going after criminals, go to Home Depot, go to 7-Eleven, that those policies are really damaging and that quote unquote changes are coming. Now, are changes coming? I don't know. But to me, that's an acknowledgement that he realizes that not only are they damaging businesses that he might actually care about, but they also are, you know, politically not going the way that Stephen Miller would think that they would go.
So there's been a torrent of local news stories that I've been seeing across my feed about how farmers are basically totally cooked. So in South Florida, for example, they grow a lot of tomatoes there. And because of Trump's tariffs, what happened was Mexico sent like a lot of tomatoes in. They flooded the market with tomatoes, which made them very cheap. And so there was no profit being made on the tomatoes from the Florida tomato farms. And so basically they're cooked. A lot of them are on the verge of bankruptcy. You have one guy who was a big Trump supporter who came out and said, because of the deportations, I lost 33% of my workforce. And these are not people who are easily replaceable.
Yeah.
And so now I regret my vote for Trump because of this. And so there are other consequences. Like, this is the thing about Trump, and this is the thing that's so dangerous about having a genuinely low IQ president. He doesn't think if I do this, the consequences are this, this, and this.
Yeah.
It's just like, I'm going to do it. Let's do it. And then he does it. And then there's all this backlash and all these consequences. And then he's playing catch up. In fact, on the tomato thing, now what he's trying to do is scramble to like make it so that Mexico can't dump a whole bunch of tomatoes in here at once at any given time. But it's like the damage is already done.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And this is the sort of stuff that leads to unintended consequences. Everything gets fucked up. Your approval rating tanks, right? And also, yeah, it's these insane raids that are leading to the backlash, that are leading to people in the streets.
That's
yes, when you raid a Home Depot, when you raid elementary schools, when you raid 7-Elevens and hair salons, when you have ICE agents literally chasing farm workers at the farm.
Right.
What do you think is going to happen? Meat packing facilities they're going at? Like,
yeah.
Of course. And all these, I mean, we've talked about it before, but the overwhelming majority of these people have no criminal record.
Yeah.
They've done over 100,000 ICE arrests already in his term. I crunched the numbers on it. Less than 1% of undocumented immigrants are criminals. That's about 10,000 or fewer undocumented immigrant violent criminals. They've arrested 100,000, but there's only 10,000 at most in the entire country. That means 90,000 people are innocent and just totally getting fucked with. And that, again, has massive, massive consequences that he doesn't think through and he doesn't care about.
Yeah. And that's, before, those numbers are really before Stephen Miller came in and said we're doing 3,000 arrests a day.
It went from 1,200 minimum to 3,000.
Now, I mean, it's just really clear what ICE is doing. They're just like racially profiling anyone who looks brown.
They arrested a U.S. Marshal.
Arresting them. Listen, so this is a new one, speaking of the local news reports. They appear to have kidnapped 6 roofers in South Florida. This is Ed Krasenstein who tweeted this, who were here legally. Okay, here legally, ICE just left their truck on the side of the road, told no one. Even the Trump supporter in the local news video is mad because it's very obvious that they just saw 6 Latino men in a truck and were like, we're going to arrest you. Like, no warrants. Oftentimes, I don't know about in this instance, oftentimes coming in plain clothes, masked up. We also have multiple instances of criminals across the country who've posed as ICE
agents, yeah.
And gone in. The most recent one I saw, they went in and they tied some woman up and robbed her, stole $1,000,
Yep.
Claiming they were there as immigration agents. Because if you dress in plain clothes and you refuse to identify yourself and refuse to proffer or even have a warrant, then yeah, any random ass actual criminal can pretend they're ICE and come in and and commit crimes. And it's not just that one instance either. There are multiple instances where this has happened across the country. On the politics too, if you ask people, okay, should criminal undocumented immigrants be deported? Yes. Okay, fair enough. Pretty much anything beyond that,
they're like,
They're like, no. I mean, and really, like, when you get to people who have no criminal record, who've been here for years, it's like 75% of the country that says, no, you should not deport them. But even if you ask about nonviolent criminals, it's very mixed, and including among Republicans. So this mandate they think that they have for just extreme cruelty and ripping families apart and chasing farm workers down in the field using helicopters and kidnapping roofers, who are guilty of nothing except for having the wrong skin tone. That is not what people want. There is no broad public support for that whatsoever. And that's why I think, this Trump truth is an acknowledgement that he is realizing, like, oh, I think the backlash to this is something significant that I have to attend to.
So a lot of these ICE agents are just deputized card-carrying white nationalists. I mean, there's been countless stories of ICE agents. They have Nazi tattoos showing on their arm, for example. They cover their faces with gaiters. The reason they're covering their faces is because they know what they're doing in many instances is completely illegal.
Yeah.
They have regular plates on their car. They're not giving people due process.
You saw the hit and run in L.A.
Of course, yeah. I mean, they just committed a major crime and then just left.
Yep.
But this is the point, is that they are the criminals. They don't tell families or lawyers where these innocent people are going. This is like a mass abduction and human trafficking spree is what we're witnessing. And I think the public has woken up to that fact. They see what this is. They know that Stephen Miller is a fascist Nazi. They know that. And so now there are consequences for that. And by the way, one more thing, when Trump gave that horrifically fascist speech to active duty soldiers, at that speech, they were also selling MAGA merch to the active duty soldiers, which violates the principle of the military being totally politically neutral. And in fact, they had to come out, I think it was at Fort Bragg.
Yeah.
They had to come out and say, we didn't
know about this.
condone this.
Yeah.
It's unacceptable, etc. And you saw he had these active duty soldiers cheering the destruction of the First Amendment. He was going after the fake news media, and they were cheering. He was saying we should lock people up who burn the flag with a year in jail.
Yep.
And they were cheering.
Yep.
Every single one of those soldiers should be dishonorably discharged. Because real patriotism is knowing that you live in a country that gives you the freedom to burn the flag as political protest. If you're against that freedom, you're against the Constitution, you're against the First Amendment, you have no business being the person who protects our constitutional rights if you're against our constitutional rights. So that was really, really disturbing to me.
Yeah, it was extraordinarily dark, especially this week when you have thousands of soldiers being deployed in the streets against American citizens under the thinnest of pretexts possible.
That's
So when you add to that speech and everything else that we've seen this week, it is absolutely terrifying. And he wants to turn the military into his personal army.
That's right.
That's what he wants.
And they seem more than happy to do it.
Well, I'm sure you saw also the report, though, that they handpicked. They did like a casting call to handpick the guys to be behind him.
Wow.
To cheer and to laugh and to applaud at the appropriate moments that he wanted and to boo at the appropriate moments that he wanted. And they explicitly said, like, if you have disagreements with Trump politically, then we don't want you behind him. Because so they did not want anyone who would not be clapping, would not be booing at the right, would be rolling their eyes at what Trump had to say. They said that explicitly. They also said they didn't want anyone who was fat. They wanted everybody to be fit and supporting the press. So, I mean, just creating explicit fascist imagery the very same week that you have all the tanks rolling into D.C. also for his military parade.
Can you imagine?
On his birthday.
Can you imagine if a Democratic president did that?
It's so quaint to even say it. Like,
I know. It's like
imagine
beyond laughable.
Obama in front of, like, imagine him having a military. Any of
Governor
this.
Chris Christie is a little bitch, and we hate him. And
threatening to arrest.
People being like, yeah.
Threatening to arrest a Republican governor. You know, imagine, like, you can't. Any of it, all of it.
Impeachment
just,
like that. It'd be overdone. Impeachment, and like half the Democrats would vote for impeachment too.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
True.
Like the game is rigged. It's just rigged. But let's get to, we have good news.
Yeah.
In fact, I would go as far as say it's very good news.
Yeah.
So give everybody
exciting.
a crystal.
Okay, so in the New York City mayor's race, it's basically come down to a two-man race between Democratic Socialist Zohran Mamdani, endorsed by AOC, and disgraced former governor Andrew Cuomo. Cuomo, obviously, a juggernaut coming into this. He's got the name, he's got the war chest, he's the establishment-backed candidate.
He's Italian.
Blah, blah, blah.
Big plus.
Big plus. Hard to overcome. Difficult, right? And so polls have showed Zohran surging, right? He's had the momentum, but we have never, until now, had a poll that actually had Zohran in the lead. Now we have that poll. Let's put this up on the screen. So this was a public policy polling survey. I believe it was one of the other Democratic candidates that actually did this survey. And they found Zohran beating Cuomo by 4 points in this particular poll. I believe this was the first one I've seen, at least, that came after Zohran had a very effective debate against Cuomo and after he received the endorsement of AOC. So this is a huge seismic event. Now, in this poll in particular, they did not simulate ranked choice voting. In New York City, they have ranked choice voting. So you put your favorite candidate and then you rank everybody on down the line. You go through subsequent rounds until, you know, you're down to the top two candidates, and then you see who have the most votes there. All of the ranked choice voting polls that do simulate all of those rounds have found Zohran to benefit from ranked choice voting. And so the expectation would be he would surge even higher above Cuomo, but that isn't simulated here. So this would be effectively the numbers in the first round. Huge, huge deal. There was one other piece before I get your reaction. Put the next piece up on the screen here. He has his initial support came from like college educated white and Asian voters. And so the knock on him was, okay, you're struggling the same way you leftists always do. You're not appealing to this multiracial working class that you claim to be serving. Well, we're starting to see that shift as well. They say support for Mamdani was still strongest among white and Asian voters, but 27% of black voters surveyed now support him, as did nearly 1/3 of Hispanic voters, an indication he is gaining multiracial support among New Yorkers. That's really important because he's obviously got to build out the coalition some in order to be able to succeed in a very diverse city. And the other piece, that I noted from a previous poll is that when you looked into where he had his highest favorabilities and the places he was struggling the most, it was all the demographics that knew the least about him, which was an indication perhaps he had a lot of room to grow as people tuned in and we got really close to election day and they get the mailers and they hear the ads and they start to think about these candidates. And this poll would seem to validate that was the case, that it wasn't that people were opposed to him. It was that many voters just hadn't really paid attention too much to the race yet.
So, a few things. First of all, Andrew Cuomo is simply coasting off of name recognition. He was the governor of the state of New York. Of course, he was eventually ousted because he was very Italian.
Because of being too Italian.
He was too Italian. He talked with his hands and he went to, let me grab that. How many women accused him? I don't even know.
I don't remember.
It was a lot.
It was a lot.
It is one of those where it's like, damn, I lost count.
He also killed a bunch of old people in nursing homes
That
and
was the
lied
biggest thing.
to Congress to try to cover it up.
Yeah, so when COVID was happening, he made an order that said all the COVID positive senior citizens should go back to the nursing homes. And then when they did that, everybody got fucking COVID and a lot of them fucking died. So, and that's just one thing with Cuomo. There's been like a million. He has deep corruption scandals as well.
The other thing, so after he does that, has that policy and leads to, significant death during COVID, then his administration puts out this report that cooked the books to cover up just how many people died in the nursing homes. And he went to Congress to testify about this and lied about his own involvement in that report and claimed he had nothing to do with it. Well, emails came out of him being like, oh, way to go, basically. Yeah. So, I mean, this is, he is corrupt. He's a liar. He's, the perfect embodiment of like the failures of the Democratic establishment.
And he's also colossally pro-Israel to the point where he's like helping Netanyahu with his legal defense in certain cases. So to this point, guys, he literally is just completely coasting off of name recognition. That's it. And you got to remember also, his dad was a very successful governor in the state of New York, Mario Cuomo.
Yeah.
And so I know you say Mario, but it's Mario. So anyway, Mario Cuomo was, so his dad, big name, well-known. His brother was the CNN guy, Chris Cuomo. He was governor of New York. The point I'm trying to make is, there's actually objectively nothing appealing about this man. It is literally just sort of like, with the Hillary Clinton effect. When she ran, it's like, well, it's her turn. It's Hillary Clinton. You know what I'm saying?
We know that name, so we should vote for her. Yeah.
But the fact that Zohran is doing what he's doing here is a phenomenal feat because, and here's the thing that it's a shame because I feel like this is an issue on the left more generally, but Zohran has a vibe. He's got a vibe about him. He's got an X factor about him. And it's rare among leftists. And I would say it's like a mix of certitude and comfort in your own skin. And he's got that, so he can go out there and be asked directly, do you believe Israel has the right to exist as a Jewish state? And he's like, I think they have a right to exist with equal rights for all. And then they're like, but you said you didn't want it to be a Jewish state. And he's like, yeah, did I stutter? And then you look at the reaction to it, and everybody's like, yeah, equal rights for all. Right? Whereas, other leftists, I feel like they easily get tripped up.
Oh, yeah.
And they don't know what to say. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to frame it. There's something to be said about, and a lot of right-wingers have this, unfortunately, where they just say the shit. Just say it and stand 10 toes down and be like, yeah, this is what I believe in. What?
Yeah.
And then oftentimes, there's a backlash because the reaction to you makes them look so unhinged and you look based and Chad.
Well, I mean, the Israel thing was so brilliant because then you have people having to explain why they're not okay with equal rights.
I don't like equal rights.
Right.
I don't like equal rights.
It must be a Jewish supremacist state or else you're an anti-Semite. And it's just like that playbook is also just so tired at this point. I mean, they're accusing Miss Rachel of being Hamas.
I know.
Come on. It
just give me a break.
loses a lot of its power when you're like literally accusing 80% of the country of being Hamas or anti-Semitic or whatever. So, this playbook, I think, has lost a lot of its power, even in a city like New York, which obviously has a large Jewish population. The other thing I saw is some of the, Orthodox Jewish groups that are influential in terms of New York City politics actually weren't endorsing Cuomo. Now, they're not endorsing Zohran, but they're endorsing others of the non-Cuomo candidates. And that's really big because he is really banking on basically, winning these organized groups within New York City. So that's very significant. But, I was watching some of his appearance on The Breakfast Club. He was so good. He would take just any question. He can just take it right back to New York City should be affordable for everyone. And we're going to do free buses and free childcare and government-owned grocery stores. And we're going to freeze the rent. And he has a very succinct, understandable message. He has a very clear story about what has gone wrong in the city and some simple and memorable policy proposals of what he's going to do that is going to be consequential immediately for you in your life. And to your point, he's just good. He's just good at it.
Now, here's the twist, though. It looks likely that if Cuomo loses the primary, he's still going to run as an independent, correct? In the general election for New York City mayor. He already has a ballot line. He already has a ballot line. So, yet again, rat fuckery from the corporate centrists, right? Where they scream all day about, oh, you got to get in line, unity, unity, unity.
Right.
They only say that when it applies to their candidates who are the ones on top.
Yeah.
As soon as it's a lefty on top, it's, oh, fuck unity. I'm going to try to rat fuck you, and I'm going to try to get that position anyway.
Yeah.
And so that really goes to show you that there is zero moral core to these people. And you also, and Zohran's been making this argument very aggressively, who do you think is actually going to stand up to Trump? Do you think it's going to be Andrew Cuomo who goes out of his way to say he agrees with Trump on a certain percentage of issues, or is it going to be the guy who is willing to stand up and fight on everything?
Well, here's what Zohran says is he and Trump have some of the same donors. So do you want
Cuomo and Trump have some of the same donors?
Yeah,
that's what
Cuomo and Trump have some of the same donors. So do you want, you really think that person who is backed by the same moneyed interests is going to stand up to him? No, you would not feel confident that would be the case.
Yeah.
And Cuomo hasn't helped himself whatsoever in the context of the anti-ICE protests and Trump's authoritarian crackdown in California. He's been very mealy-mouthed, wishy-washy, etc. Meanwhile, we got footage of Zohran from 3 months ago out there challenging Tom Homan to his face when he came to Albany. So he's made a pretty stark contrast there as well.
That's right. And Cuomo's rebuttal is, I grab it a titty. I like it a titty.
There's some constituency for that, apparently.
There is, especially if they're Italian. Hey guys, we had a great long conversation with Pisco. Everybody should check it out. The link is below. Crystal, Kyle, and friends. Sign up and you can watch the whole thing, and you watch it a day early, or you could sign up for free and get the audio version a day later. Definitely check it out.